capacity of how we actually show up when challenges come in our life. What's our attitude that revolves around that? I wrote a book called 10 Power Stories to Impact Any Leader, Journey Your Way to Leadership Success. That's written for really CEOs and executive leaderships that need to tell stories, their own stories. And one is in there around attitude is environment and atmosphere. So when you think about an atmosphere that we're in, we live and breathe in this atmosphere here, but if we go into space or we go into water, we need to bring our atmosphere with us. And a lot of times it has to do with attitude of how we show up in different environments. What did COVID do to us? Did we panic and go make a grocery run store to get toilet paper? You know? Did that just take the oxygen out of our environment and we're struggling to get our atmosphere back? Yeah, absolutely attitude. What else do you think?
Maybe a sense of loss.
Sense of loss, absolutely a sense of loss. Yeah, because I went through the grieving process. So even out there when I was in the wheelchair with my wife and looking at that, I felt the loss, the full brunt of not being able to go and live life as I wanted to live it. And when we're talking about, when we look at this museum, if you look at the integration of every single thing that's here with Olympic and Paralympic athletes, even in the words that are around in the Olympic and Paralympic model, the gold, the black for the Olympic, or not the model, but the athlete's oath, you'll see on the top floor, you will see that in black is the athlete's oath for the Olympics, and in gold is the one for the Paralympics. It's all ingrained because every person wants to live independently. And you'll see that here. We want to live our lives as independent as possible. So yeah, so when you lose that mindset that's around it, it might create even a downward attitude for that, for sure. One more.
Acceptance of the new normal.
Acceptance of the new normal, and then what'd you say over here?
Acceptance to who you are in the future, create a new self-image.
Yeah, so both in kind of the new normal, looking towards the future. And it's, you know, when you see a place like this, you can kind of be inspired by what we see. And so who we surround ourselves with absolutely will help us into that new normal environment. So the woman, she asked me, she says, wow, that's amazing. What happened next? I said, well, I started swimming for physical therapy. And I got so fast in the water that 27 months later, I somehow fluked up, messed up, and actually made the Paralympic swim team. Thought it was kind of funny myself. And, you know, here I was a world-class athlete, track and field, and now through swimming, I made this Paralympic team. But it was at those games where I saw something, that new normal, right? So when I look at the new normal, I don't look at the new normal as a destination. A lot of folks that you hear right now are using that term as a destination term. I can't wait till things get back to normal. Well, I guess this is our new normal, and we're at a plateau. We're at the destination. I believe the new normal is only a plateau by which we grow. It's embedded in the Olympic model of Citius, Altius, Fortius, swifter, higher, stronger, where we notice that those words are not written in the superlative of the word. It's not swiftest, highest, and strongest, but they're written with that ER stem ending so that we can be the swiftest today, swifter tomorrow. Jump the highest today, jump higher tomorrow. Run the fastest today, be faster tomorrow. So we have to have that ER stem ending, and that really elevates our growth with that ER. So for me, I began watching athletes running and jumping with artificial legs on that track. And I saw a gentleman run down a long jump runway. He leaps into the air in the long jump. One of my All-American honors at Arkansas was in the long jump. I was intrigued by it. And at the height of his flight, his artificial leg flew off. I'd never seen this before. He lands here, artificial leg lands about 3 feet up in front of him. The whole crowd goes dead silent. Remember that movie, Home Alone, Macaulay Culkin? But he turns back to the official and says, now where are you going to measure my jump from? From right here, my artificial leg landed up there. That's a brilliant attitude to have. So in the new normal, as we're looking at that it's only a destination to grow, I'm thinking about all the innovation that has happened since we came into COVID. How many times, should we always be pushing ourselves in that new normal state? At that level, that we're changing. We're always looking at our business models. We're always looking at how we engage our employees. We're always looking at something that's going to elevate the business. Or do we coast like we did prior to COVID? Puts off the gas, just coasting downhill. We're running around doing our own little thing. Should we always be that engaged, that leaning forward, trying to figure it out in that space, or are we coasting? So the new normal is a plateau by which we grow. So I saw him with that artificial lake fly off, and I said, I'm on the wrong track. I should not be in the swimming pool. I need to be back on track. And even when I saw that, I knew 4 years from that moment, I was going to be at the Paralympic Games in 2000 in Sydney, Australia. I haven't even taken my first step on a running lane, and I knew I was going to be there because I had all of that acumen that was built up in my career beforehand. And so I started putting that process together, and 4 short years later, I went to Sydney, Australia, and somehow won the silver medal. There's a lot that goes into the silver medal. I'll talk a little bit about that in a moment. But we see this, when I see this leg, and Michelle was the first one when I came in, she knew it was here and I didn't. And so she's filming me as I come around to see my artifact for the first time. And her daughter, Abby, was working for me over the summer as an internship, and she didn't tell me either. So I almost fired her for that. But it was great, you know, walking and seeing it. I had this whole emotion that just came back of what that represented. Because many people will say, oh my gosh, you almost won the gold medal. You should have won the gold. And that's a very American thing to say. We don't hear that from other countries, right? They celebrate everybody's success of actually just making it to the game, right? Americans would say, oh, you didn't win the gold. So for me, that speaks a lot when I hear that to this attitude of entitlement. That you're saying, that I'm hearing that people say, I'm deserving of something that I have not yet earned. What does that also say about the gold medals? Did he not train equally as hard or have the same opportunity? On the day of October 23rd, 2000 at 10:30 in the morning in Sydney, Australia, did we not show up at the same time? Or are people saying, I was training to win the silver medal? To me, that's crazy, right? We hear it, right? We see Little League. Oh my gosh, everybody wins. No, everybody doesn't win. But we'll say, you know, I think it was Ray Romano who was watching Little League, his little tyke was playing, and his brother was coming up. And his brother said, hey, what's the score? And Ray yelled back, or another parent yelled back and said, well, we don't keep score here. Everybody wins. And everybody has fun. So Ray yelled back, you know he's a comic, right? He yelled back to his brother, well, our team is having much more fun 10 more times than their team. Because the kids keep scoring. They want to know after it's they're eating oranges and apples. They want to know, who won, Dad? Who won, Mom? So they're always saying that, right? So we kind of do a disservice, kind of say we're all in this kind of together. I get the leadership concept around it. But that's when I see that limb, I'm thinking, you know, it's this whole process from this fear to freedom. That in the whole time, I'm thinking about, from my fear of myself, is Alice going to stick around? Will John Jr. still see me as his dad? Does I still have a job in the military? Through fears of other people believing for me what I can or cannot do, which is based on what they believe they could or could not do if they were in my situation. Or societal fears that we have. Who dictated to me in society my fears in the first place? Who was I listening to? So then I think I'm rebuilding. I have to rebuild my life. But wait a minute, I don't get my leg back. Am I really rebuilding? Or am I breaking up a new foundation that's there? In my mind, I'm redefining that moment for me. I'm redefining who I am. And there is a release that has to come. I have to choose what I'm going to release, what I'm going to let go of, what I'm going to amputate to embrace that new normal mindset. And I find it's not a rebuild at all, it's actually a rebirth. I have to learn how to walk again, run again, jump again. All those things come within a 6-year time period. But when I get there, now I'm resolved, I'm resolute in who I am. I know exactly how I'm showing up. And because of that my liberation opens up. I'm now free, totally, not for me, but to help somebody else with their fears to come through their life challenges. And so when I won the silver medal and I come down in the elevator, there is a reporter who knew me from when I ran the Southwest Conference. And she said, John, you ran against Michael Johnson. You jumped against Carl Lewis. Do you think with artificial limb technology that you could do that again? And I thought about a question for a moment. I said, no, I don't think with artificial limb technology I could do that. However, maybe your question should be, if God forbid Carl Lewis or Michael Johnson lost a leg, could they run as fast or jump as far as I do? And that's the catch-up. That's the turn that we have to have, not only in our own personal lives, but in the lives of everybody that we might be leading, even in, I would argue, in our society right now, is to catch up to a different way of thinking that we are not in the place of a plateau. And we can celebrate challenges and differences in a space like this that actually elevates us. So I have one thing I would love to share with you, and then we're going to open up for questions and opinions because I have no answers. So this is the medal that they hang around the neck in Sydney, Australia, made of silver, because everything's made of silver over there. And as you'll find out in the museum, I'll just pass that around. So you probably want to, I don't know how you got to do with wiping the hands and stuff, but you know, I don't, pass it. And I realized in that moment that we get a chance, athletes get a chance, only 3 people will win a medal at the games. Most athletes go home empty-handed. So this museum, I think, even reflects that. It reflects the journey and not necessarily the highest level of sport. It's the changes that we've had and made athletes to athletes that around the world. One of my most favorite things in this exhibit here is actually as you leave looking at the 1980 boycott against the wall, right? Powerful that we have all those names of all the athletes that did not get a chance to compete in those games. Just think about that. Train for 4 years, 8 years, 12 years, and you don't get a chance to go because you're being used as a political pawn instead of going and celebrating what actually brings us together. So with that, I say go forth and inspire your world, and I will open up for questions and opinions right now.